It's Tuesday. This is Trekland HQ, and we are live with today's guest, John, Dr. Phil Phlox Billingsley, and TrekTalks coming up. Yes, today on episode, can you believe this? 392 of Trekland Tuesdays live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47. And yes, the Trekland Treks, your customized away mission here in Greater SoCal. You can visit actual real life Star Trek filming locations. Just get with me. We will set the whole thing up. Planet Concierge, you will have a ball. I just did my first one of the year on Sunday. The couple got engaged at Bronson Canyon. It was amazing. Let me know how that goes for you, and we will set it up this year. So yes, are you ready, everybody, for another Tuesday here of some sanity, clarity, and the bigger picture in all things Star Trek? Well, look, I'm going to just plunge right in. I want to say, first off, though, thank you to everybody that's here with us. If you're a regular, we've got a great show today, as you heard, on several fronts. But listen, if you've just found your way here, if you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, a couple of things. Just make sure you jump into the chat. Now, today we're on guest format, not me preachifying format. So we may dip in and out, hopefully in and out of the chat as we go along. But just to know that if you are on Facebook, you're only seeing Facebook questions or chat comments. If you're on YouTube and Twitch, if you're on YouTube, you're going to see everybody's comments and everybody's chat. And if you're on YouTube, hey, I am monetized now. So we have Super Chat. If you want to cross my palm with silver and help out a little bit that way, and I'll try to notify your question a little sooner than all the rest when we see it, and jump on that. So anyway, thanks so much for doing that. And hey, if you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you. You can still leave a comment below, keep the conversation going, and maybe sometime you can catch us live on Tuesdays for the actual Trekland Tuesdays Live at 1 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern. And yes, we are at this time of day, so we have folks around the world. So I'm saying hi to everybody there in the UK. It's an hour earlier than usual, I know, and in Central Europe too. So let's dive in and let me bring in the man of the hour today. Anyway, everybody get ready. We will try to dip in and out of the chat. Let me get him in here. Mr. John Billingsley, would you jump in here with me and say hi to all the folks at home?
Oh, yeah, God, I was dozing off there. Larry, that was a lot of information. And last thing I heard was I'm supposed to provide sanity and clarity.
Well, I'll help you. I know it's a stretch, but you know,
you're an actor. One, either sanity or clarity, but I'm not going to be responsible for both sanity and clarity. How about I provide comity and amity?
All right. That sounds like, oh wow, okay. I'm going to get
amity. It seems like it's pretty much the same damn thing, right? Doesn't it? I mean, it's like, can you have comity without amity? You can't.
For some reason, I think you said that, and matter and antimatter came to mind. I thought comedy and amity.
No, not comedy. A comedy.
Comedy and amity. Yes.
Fellowship.
I can't mix comedy and amity cold, Captain. Okay.
I like it when you do that, Scott.
I'm sorry. Right. Well, listen, sir. Everybody, yes. I hope everybody watching us knows all about Trek Talks, but just in case, the first question's got to be. When did you come up with Phil Phlox? Did that just evolve naturally or what?
Dr. Phil, no dirty forceps Phlox, in point of fact. It just is euphonious. I just feel that, euphony is appealing. It was either Phil Phlox or I had another option that was also a P word. Was it Peter Phlox? No, it couldn't have been that. Fred Phlox. It was either Fred Phlox or Phil Phlox. And I just thought, Phil Phlox. Because he was a plumber, he was a butcher, he was like a regular Joe. On Denobula, he fell into the doctoring business, but back in the day, he was basically, hi, Phil Phlox, how you doing? He'll sell insurance, he'll get
I can see him shaking the hands.
Yeah, Phil Phlox, how are you? Exactly, like the guy in Groundhog Day.
I was just going to say, yes. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, that just came out. You were standing on stage one day, or it just, or a party?
I think I just started signing pictures that way, actually. And then somebody said, "Phil, is that?" And I said, "Yes, it's canon now." You know why? Because Larry Nemecek says so. Dr. Trek. He calls
Hey.
me Phil Phlox, so I'm Phil Phlox.
Comedy, amity, sanity, clarity. It's all
Yeah,
there.
comedy, amity, sanity, and clarity. Exactly. The
I
law
agree.
firm that you wouldn't
You
believe
went
it.
to law firm. I went to vaudeville, which shows how old I
Oh,
am.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's better than the Lennon sisters. So let's talk about. So, how in the world did you wind up involved with the Trek Talks? Benefits the Hollywood Food Coalition.
Does indeed.
This is the fifth year.
This is the fourth year.
That's what I thought.
I've been involved with the Hollywood Food Coalition for 8 years. The organization has been around for almost 40 years. It started by providing street services to people in need in West Hollywood. It's grown quite a bit from the days when we served maybe 50 or 60 people to serving now 250 or 300 people a night, a hot meal, multi-course, all kinds of different options. We always try and provide a vegetarian and a vegan option. We provide a lot of other ancillary services to folks who come to us on a nightly basis, but we also now rescue about 2.5 million pounds of food a year.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
That's the big thread to me, is all that food being thrown away at shoot sites and everything.
Yeah, and that was the thing when Bonnie and I got involved. We fell in love with the organization and, of course, its history and the care and concern that everybody who works there always expresses for people in need. But we also thought for the organization to have a bigger life and, candidly, to survive, to be able to attract funding, we needed to have a bigger footprint. And Bonnie and I thought maybe one way to do that was to start rescuing and sharing food with our neighbors, and in part our neighboring not-for-profits, because we also thought that's a way to really kind of emphasize and underline the importance of coalition building in the social service sector. And that's a lot of what the work means to me. I have a particular hero, Frances Perkins, who was the labor secretary under Franklin Roosevelt. And before she was tabbed to essentially create the New Deal, along with Harry Hopkins, she had been doing so much amazing work in New York, trying to figure out how to respond to the crisis of the Great Depression by creating new and innovative social service programs. And she recognized that so much of it is about the collaboration between different people, different entities. You've got to find a way to give soup to nuts solutions for people in need. So that's HOFOCO in a nutshell.
Well, thankfully, they fixed everything in the New Deal in the 30s, and we haven't had to worry about anything.
Oh, no, everything is running smooth as silk. Oh, wait a second. I'm getting government secrets. Hold on a second. Yeah.
Oh, see, I haven't got the right blue check to get in on that circle. Or something.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. Well, it looks like there's trouble in Taiwan. All right. Peter, cut it out. Come on, Tulsi, knock it off.
Good luck with Tulsi.
I don't know if you saw the hearing.
Yeah. Who's this JB on the call? Who's JB?
Well, they had a hearing today in which Tulsi Gabbard and Ratcliffe at CIA were both like, "Oh, I don't really remember the call particularly. I was in the room, but I think I might have been. I think I'm having a tuna sandwich when that Peter Hegseth. That name is not familiar to me.
Yeah, didn't he be on TV?
What a cocktail! What a toxic cocktail of rank incompetence and vileness and evil. It's just, I don't know. I guess we should cheer for the incompetence because it stops the villains from doing.
It's the saving grace. It's the saving grace. Well, there are no villains here involved in Hollywood Food Coalition.
No villains at the Hollywood Food Coalition. No, and to a certain extent, I think unfortunately we are in a position where so much of what is going to be necessary, the rubble that's being created, digging out from under, is going to require very strong communities, cities, towns, villages, social service provision on the ground, people figuring out how they can give back to their immediate neighbors. It's going to be necessary and critical, and it's how I think we'll rebuild. It's what happened in the Great Depression, and hopefully it doesn't come to that again. But I certainly think we're going to see a lot of damage done, and organizations like ours and organizations all over the country and all over the world working locally are providing some sense of security to people in need. And that's one of the things we do.
Yeah.
TrekTalks. I didn't answer your initial question. I have a way of taking a single question and spinning it into a half-an-hour answer. Your work is done here, Larry. If you
listen, I'm glad to see someone else does it besides me. That I'm on this side of the mic. I can do that just as well.
I take every question as if it contains 7 parts, and I answer them part by part by part. The Trek Talks was conjured
Yeah.
by the wonderful Bill Smith, Dan Davidson, and myself. Jonathan Frakes had done an individuated fundraiser for a food centric organization and made $5,000. And Bill and Dan and I said, let's put Frakes in his place and make more money. So we came up with a telethon idea, sort of Jerry Lewis muscular dystrophy, 8 hour, which is what it is, 8 hour digital telethon, all things Star Trek, panel after panel after panel, featuring such luminaries as well, Larry Nemecek. Yeah, Larry's going to be there. He's going to be hosting a wonderful.
Oh, this year, yeah. Well, let me back up a second. So the first one, that was also pandemic time, right? So it was kind of the vibe of the moment.
This is 25, 24, 23, 22. So it was a little after the pandemic.
Okay.
But
we were easing out. But
yeah.
people were used to this. People had gotten over the hump of virtual meetups.
Yes. And you know, my way of thinking about it, it's like going to a convention, but you don't have to wear pants. I certainly do not. It's
Route 66. I was going to see your T-shirt there.
Yeah, Route 66. Yeah. It's great fun. This year we're going to have an hour-long Discovery retrospective with, I believe, 10 people from the cast, headed by Sonequa Martin Green. Bob Picardo and Kate Mulgrew are going to have a one-on-one, unmoderated, beer on the table, chin wag. We're going to have a 45-minute meet and greet with some of the stars from Lower Decks. There'll be a science panel. There'll be some terrific stuff with folks who wrote the novelizations of Star Trek. We're going to have, oh gosh, I always forget.
The biographies.
The biographies,
yes.
There's all sorts of stuff. It's hard to remember all 8 hours of the content. I should have had the list in front of me, but it's all full of surprises. You'll hear about the Hollywood Food Coalition. Rod Roddenberry will be there. Nana Visitor is going to be there. Oh, guests up the wazoo.
Up the wazoo.
Larry.
There's even a panel, and this is public, right? We've got the guests settled now.
Oh yeah, it's all set. It's all set.
Yeah.
We
have. You should say that normally Trek Talks happens in January.
That's correct.
Yes, the tradition. But then the LA fires kind of blew many things away, including you all decided to say, and so many people were affected and distracted.
Yeah, it was right in the heart of things, and there was no question we were going to need to push. And I will say that one of the things from the parochial perspective, and I'm very proud of my city's response, but also the Hollywood Food Coalition really is in a certain respect a kind of a first responder. It was throughout COVID and was again here, making sure that food got out to firemen and people who were in immediate need, impacted in the communities, et cetera, et cetera. We were awarded with, I was very happy to see, 2 significant grants, totaling, I believe, $750,000.
Wow.
Which we are still a small organization. We have $3 million a year, roughly speaking, $2.5–3 million a year budget, and then an additional amount of money that comes to us by way of donated food. So a total of $6 million. So that kind of contribution is a significant driver for us. And the money that we raise through TrekTalks, which in the past has been somewhere around $100,000 to $110,000, is also a nice bit of dough to keep what we do going forward. I'm tremendously appreciative of everybody in Star Trek, from the celebs and the crews and what have you, to the people who've donated, who've been so supportive of OFOCO down the years.
Yeah, and it's grown, and everybody in the Star Trek family gets it, and you've had a lot of cooperation from everybody up and down the line jumping in.
It's, actors, most of us, not all of us, but most of us spent some struggling years. I was on food stamps, certainly always, in line of the unemployment office. So for me, there's always been a bone deep memory of what it was like to stretch a tuna casserole for 4 nights, and to know who I could cadge a buck from to buy a beer, and who I had to avoid because I never paid back the bucks I cadged last month. I think it's really important, particularly as you get older, to try and give back if you were lucky enough to have some success.
Yeah. I was going to say a minute ago, one of the things that has not really been announced yet is my panel, which had a little bit of a tweak from January to now, but we're thrilled because January was going to be a very weird double anniversary. Last fall, speaking of all these issues we're talking about here. So the Bell riots, the Future Tense episode on DS9 two-parter was future. They went to the past, but it was in the future of DS9's writers, and they just said it in early September 2024. And so everybody felt very eerily sick that this prediction of a future is still hanging around us.
Yeah.
All the depictions that they had at the time. And then as a double whammy, January was the 30th anniversary of the episode. So I said, we need to get this out and talk about it and dust it off and talk about, the wonderful foreknowledge here that Ira and Robert Wolf would know that this would still be an issue in 2024. And that's not a crazy future. It's sad.
Right.
But it was going to be a turning point. Ira said, I want to show that how we got from modern times to Gene's utopia, that it didn't just happen overnight, that there were rough spots along the way.
That has always been something that I've been very curious about. So I'm elated that Terry will be joining.
Yes, Terry's going to join us, and
Blair Bursey, who has been a longtime volunteer with the Hollywood Food Coalition, to give a perspective on what it is actually like in the trenches. She's been involved in helping people in need for well over a decade. And I love the fact that there's kind of a real life perspective on what it means to be struggling right now.
Yeah. Well, I wanted it to be, and I first told you about this last summer. I said, hey, we've got this double eclipse coming up here, this Venn diagram overlap of the anniversary of the show and also the future date that it was supposed to happen in, which is now current.
Yep.
And so we've got Ira Bear, and we've got Robert Wolf, and we've got Terry Farrell, who was in the episode, who was on the upper half, how the other half lived that didn't care about what was happening, or were totally in ignorance of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Blair will be there because I wanted to have somebody, because one of the frustrating things about this issue, just in a broad way, hunger, homelessness, and the unhoused, and all of that. And Future Tense got into this too. There was a combination of these people that were supposedly put in this sanctuary district for their own good. Some of them were just people out of work, everyday people who had been fine and needed some unemployment, but they got shoved in here because that was the solution. But also the mentally ill were in there. There was a criminal element to it even. And they just showed this mix of people thrown in together was not the way to solve anything. But they'd been shoved away and forgotten about by the rest of society. And one of the things that's frustrating to me now, whether we're talking about any of those kind of issues, and they've become hot button political issues, sadly, but if that's how they finally get attacked, maybe that's the way to go at it. But we spend a lot of money on these things, and it seems like there's a lot of wheels spinning. And that's why I'm glad to have Blair there, because it feels like people try different solutions and they don't work, or people are just pie in the skying. And it's like, what works on the ground? What's in the trenches? And that's why I'm excited to have Blair.
And I won't hold forth except to say that, it is meatball surgery. The nature of what one can do on the ground to help people who are mentally ill, to help people who are hungry, to help people who are ill-clothed, to help people with any number of needs, what we can do is not commensurate to the need, because the need has to be addressed in a structural way from the top down. I mean, a lot of people who end up living in the streets. Imagine this: in a public school system where there are 40 kids to a class, and there are all sorts of different capacities, and all sorts of different home environments. We graduate a lot of children in America from schools who are ill-equipped to participate in a functioning society. And not surprisingly, a number of them in despair, they can't either get a job or keep a job, and they don't feel like they've got any prospects to turn, for instance, to drugs or crime or violence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The idea that we who are in any way, shape, manner, or form connected to service provision can solve this problem. This is a problem that starts at the top, because people in power don't give a damn about a good swath of America. They really don't. For many people, the gag with America is, as long as we have a poor, struggling underclass to work for nothing, we who profit from their labor and profit from their toil can do very well. And that's really the heart and soul of where we're at. I'm not a Marxist, don't get me wrong, but I do think that we threw the baby out with the bathwater when we decided that communism proved that capitalism was the be-all and end-all. A structured economy, a managed economy with an understanding that an economy must function for all of its citizens is really ultimately critical if we're going to have a solution to the problem of hunger, homelessness, and poverty.
And now all we need to do is invent the replicator, and we'll just be home free.
Well, it's the thing about education is it's not a coincidence that they're getting rid of the Department of Education. It's not a coincidence that they want to privatize education and make it religious education. They don't want an educated population. Over 50% of Americans read below a 6th grade level.
Mm-hmm.
That's a goal. It's not a side effect. It's a goal.
I remember just thinking it was ridiculous about 20 years ago. I remember reading where the Texas Republican Party, as part of their platform, wanted to ban the teaching of critical thinking in school. And I was like, what, you want to have stupid people? And then years later, I was like, what, you don't want to teach people how to think? What?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
But it was like, say that part out loud. Just put it out there.
Yeah. And it seems so unfathomable, but so I don't think we can possibly accept it, because it seems not only nihilistic, but to a certain extent, it seems like a suicidal ideation. I mean, at a certain point, that wonderful movie that the guy made about the asteroid that's going to hit the Earth, we entertain ourselves to death. We don't pay attention to the problems that beset us. There are a lot of people who want nothing more. I mean, bread and circuses, right? That's where it came from. The whole concept is keep them, occupied with crap, and don't let them get too smart. And those of us who are ka-chinging, ka-ching, 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 will keep on ka-chinging.
Just the percentage of who's doing the ka-chinging might shift from time to time, but yeah. Oh,
yeah. Not to be Debbie Downer, because in my own personal life, I think I take a lot of joy, and I think it's very important that we all, as individuals, find a way to kind of balance that part of us that's like, with happiness as best we can.
It's got to be. Well, that's the only way we survive sanely, or whatever. Let me jump in here. So, you know what? I've got these prepped and everything, and I didn't even go to this. So looky here. So we are talking about April 5th. And you know what? Did you realize that the delay, the rescheduled date is First Contact Day?
We did. We chose that specifically. We had some options. We knew we wanted to try and do it in April. We didn't want to let it get too far away from us. March was a little soon. So we looked at the Saturday, April dates, and somebody said First Contact Day. So that was an easy solution. Now, I am told, I believe there is some, can't remember date. It's either some some activism events, or a boycott. Something's happening on the 5th that made some people worry that maybe our audience would be diminished. But there's no such thing as a perfect date. So,
well, also, John, isn't it true that if people want to, they can contribute right now?
They certainly could contribute right now. Absolutely.
And it goes into the pot. It goes into the TrekTalks pot, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, this is all the socials that are out there that are, and the actual telethon is going to be on the YouTube channel.
Yes, and I really want to make sure I'm giving like a huge trumpet blast to the amazing team of people who put this event on. I am merely the public pretty face. They needed to find somebody beautiful to kind of trot out that would kind of catch people and arrest their attention.
So you're the placeholder until they.
Yeah. I'm like, it's like, oh, I'd follow him anywhere. And then, of course, there are the brainiacs behind the scenes who are doing all the hard work, who are actually kind of like making this happen and promoting it. It's an amazing group effort, 15 or so folks. If I started naming them, I would leave somebody out, and then I would feel terrible. So take it from me. It's an amazing group of folks who make this event take place, and they work very hard, and they've given of themselves to this. It moves me beyond words how generous people are with their time.
Yeah. You and Bonnie Gordon are the co-hosts for the day, off and on, right?
We are the co-hosts. Although you won't get overly sick of us, I promise. We bop in periodically. There's an auction that takes place, a silent auction. We'll flog that. We'll make a few jokes about upcoming guests. I've got to get 5 Bob Picardo jokes in per contract. Is a contract I make with myself. The
Star Trek Doctor Brethren. Yeah.
Yes. My Bob Picardo, famously, I love Bob, but he sent me an email once, said, "Hi, John, just wanted to let you know, I saw a poll online and they ranked the doctors in order of popularity. I was 1 and you were last. Love you, Bob." Like,
Of course.
Now that was, I found out later, that was a push poll, and it was only taken within his family. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so
There
yeah,
you go.
he didn't tell me, that. So
That wouldn't have happened if DeForest Kelly was still
yeah,
alive.
Bob has been
Yeah.
such a wonderful supporter from the jump, as have so many people.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, so Trek Geeks was the original founder. Roddenberry has been part of this
Trek
also.
geek. Well,
Who are the
I mean,
official
if I were to go back in time,
Uh-huh.
because many years ago, I was talking to John Champion about ways
Right.
that we might,
Mm-hmm.
and it was always interesting to me that Star Trek's mission really is to try and find ways to unite people around the things that we all can agree on, such as helping humanity is better than not helping humanity. And I thought, well, what are the ways we could do that within the Star Trek community? And so John and I kind of began this conversation. Dan and Bill were the first people with whom I thought, well, here's a concrete thing we could
Mm-hmm.
do. But that group of folks now includes people who have really kind of got this notion of Trektivism that
Right.
they're kind of running with, which I love. Heather Barker and Matt Simone have a podcast in which they basically try and feature people who are doing cool shit in the world that adhere to Trek's values. The word Trektivism, I think, is really cool because it suggests that taking Trek's values out into the world ask of us as individuals to do certain things that are very specific, that mean something to us, that actually galvanize us. And a lot of the conversation that, I've felt very good about being part of over the last few years sort of revolves around how do we find our inner activist bliss so that we can go out and do stuff that we might not otherwise have done.
Yeah. It's one of the things that dawned on me over the years as more and more generations of Star Trek accumulated. And then as I talk, and my specialty is talking to the behind the scenes folks and getting their stories and their contributions out and preserved and all of that. And one of the things is no matter before, in front of, behind the camera, wherever you are, people have long careers. They have a lot of credits. They got a long IMDb, and everybody, it's like, people who play villains all their life get to play a good guy on a Star Trek episode. And they're like, that's the thing. I've done a million roles, a million projects. And that's the thing people will want to talk to me about 30 years later. Like, I didn't know at the time, but now that I'm in my 60s or 70s or 80s, I've done 1,000 roles. I've shot 1,000 episodes or whatever. What do people want to talk to me about? My 3 days on Star Trek or my 5 years on Star Trek,
They want to talk to me about my long history of child molestation on television, but I mean, everybody's, I don't
on television,
on television,
on television.
How that got to be a niche is a mystery to me. I don't even like children, much less do I want to molest them. I can't understand it. Acting is a very strange business.
Well, John, you'll always be Ambrose Bierce to me because I saw that live. Yes, and I had no idea who the guy was, which is part of the. Yes, look it up, everybody. Was it P?
Pardon?
What's his middle initial?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it P?
I don't know.
For some reason, Ambrose P. Bierce came out of my mouth, but it's Ambrose. Yeah,
it's Ambrose Bierce, who was sort of a bit of a contemporary of Twain's, even more curmudgeonly than Mark Twain, and more acidic. He actually.
I can't imagine the connection to you.
I know. Somebody brought that to me and asked me if I was interested, and I thought, well, I happen to be quite a fan of Ambrose Bierce, so yes, I'm very interested. And
okay.
Mark Twain was taken. Everybody does Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Hal
Holbrook ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, it's not like you can book Ambrose Bierce onto college campuses. However, it's like, who are you doing?
Here,
Ambrose Bierce. Yeah.
Who was that? Yeah. I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna backtrack and look at the chat and see. I know I've got. Oh, here. You know what? I'm gonna just start with. Where'd it go? Boom.
I like this comment. John doesn't molest children unless there's a camera rolling. That's right. That's right.
And a paycheck. And no. This is getting too.
That's right.
So I'm going to jump in here. Thank you, Sean, for the Euro. So I'll jump with you. A Phlox upon both your houses. He says, I loved you in Orville. I don't suppose they have you back for season 4. Also,
spoiler alert, I'm killed at the end of Orville, so I don't think they would. I can tell you an Orville story, though, because they cast Bob Picardo, just flat out made him an offer. Me, I had to audition. And I don't even think that the casting director, when she called me in,
Who
knew
sent them that same poll?
Yeah, I don't think the casting director, when they called me in, knew I had been on Star Trek. It wasn't as if, the powers that be behind the Orville said, hey, what we should do? We should get both doctors, blah, blah, blah. It was just a coincidence. My audition tape happened to show up, presumably, in front of the brass, and they said, oh, yeah, that guy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We should have thought of that on our own. Yes, you should have. But I tried to put my heart and soul into that audition because I thought, I've got probably a pretty good chance of this once they see it and think, oh yeah, wasn't that guy on Star Trek?
Did you try the bird squawk or no?
No, and it turned out that old what's his name was the guy behind the Orville.
Seth MacFarlane.
Old what's his name? I call him old what's his name. Apparently, doesn't really.
Why they haven't had you back for season?
I know. Why didn't they have me back? Once they killed me, I didn't have to kiss his ass. He's like, I'm dead. Old what's his name apparently does a really good Dr. Phlox impersonation, and I begged and pleaded with him to do it, and he never would do it. So
it must have been hyperbole.
Or maybe in fact he doesn't do such a good Dr. Phlox impersonation. I don't know. Hey, if you're watching this, Seth, and I doubt very much you are, I double dog dare ya to have me back on. My twin brother survived, and to do that Dr. Phlox impersonation.
There we go. I'm scanning. You're at the bottom, but I actually back scrolled. I back scrolled.
I like Geek Filter. Stop talking now, John. LOL. That could have come up at any time, but I bet it has something to do with child molestation.
That was Aaron.
Yeah.
So Jared says, this is the first time in years I have seen John Billingsley somewhere other than a cruise ship.
Well, that's because you've never been off a cruise ship, for God's sake. Who is this? This is Jared. Jared lives on a cruise ship. He's one of those guys who just you can't get him off the boat. Periodically, they kind of drag him on shore just so he, kind of is completely, he wants to get a little bit of Yeah. Anyway.
I was just on the cruise for the first time, and I totally get that. There's a whole population of people that live on cruise ships.
You were just on the cruise for the first time?
Yes. Can you imagine?
Oh,
yes.
Not for Trek?
Yes. Believe me, not for lack of trying, but there's a good chance they'll have me back. So,
well, what the hell? They didn't have me back this year. You throw one child overboard, and suddenly it's like,
I don't know.
See,
here's Geek Filter. Aaron was saying he's working on graphics for TrekTalks.
Ooh, thank you. Thank you,
Aaron. Yay. Okay. Such a brilliant organization. Yeah. Here's speaking of the organization. Now, one thing that crossed my mind early on, obviously the need, obviously good group, obviously wonderful people serving so many people. But what about people? And we're talking about Star Trek fandom. So the country, the world, as we've got folks from around the world. This is why I do it this time of day. What about people that say, hey, I love this, but I have my own food bank hunger group in my own city that I give money to. Why? I mean, I don't want anybody in LA to starve, but do you have because I know that one thing Hofoco does is outreach and coordination with others.
Yeah. I mean, well, one, I don't want to make it sound like, oh no, my organization is more important than yours, because it's not. You're right. It is one organization. I do believe that the nature of what we are pointed towards when it comes to coalition building and figuring out ways that not-for-profits can work together to kind of rise, lift all boats, it has meaningfulness for not-for-profits elsewhere. But that's a long, slow, arduous cook to figure out lessons that can be shared with not-for-profits in other communities. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen overnight. It is more important that you find ways to support something that's happening in your backyard. And if it comes down to it and you feel like, well, I can't just support blah, 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 because I gotta, by all means, put your time, energy, money, and effort where you feel like it's going to pay off the most for you. I don't ever think anyone should ever, from any charity, any cause, any effort, suggest that somehow what they're doing should have primacy. I'm much more interested in helping to encourage people to think about ways they could get involved, because the money matters. It certainly does. But I went in to volunteer and make a fruit salad. I made a horrible fruit salad. Little bits of my finger ended up, we don't want to talk about that. Don't trust John with a sharp knife. But I thought, as I got to know,
never occurred to me. So I guess I'm ahead of the game.
No. as I got to know the organization, I felt like, I can really make a significant difference here because there are things that they could use that I think I can provide that have to do with a certain organizational capacity I have. I'm pretty social. I'm willing to spread the word. I'm gabby, blah, 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 blah. Some of what I sometimes think is required of us is to go find the thing in your community that really resonates with you,
Mhm.
figure out how you can help grow it or expand its capacity to help people. And it calls on things that you might not have known you had the capability to do when you ask yourself if you can be a builder of something. If you like to support the Hollywood Food Coalition, I can tell you that the money is going to help people, and that's that. Beyond that, I'm not going to puff it. Um, I'm mostly interested as a human being in how we as individuals can help people above and beyond the dollar contributions we make.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I knew that there was actually an answer. That's all good points, but I knew that there was actually an answer to those folks that were not here in Southern California, and
Yeah.
to say that the Hofoco does a lot of outreach, good, and networking and sharing
Well,
the
and
knowledge.
let me give you a couple of specific examples of what I'm talking about. Rescuing food as a particular obligation, a
Mhm.
task. uh, there's a lot of food to be rescued. The problem is you have to put trucks on the streets, you have to have volunteers, you have to have a place to cull it and sort it and store it in refrigerators. You have to find a way to get it to the end user relatively quickly. One organization can only rescue so much food. We are now moving into a new and expanded what we call Food Hub. And we're partnering with three other organizations that we've begun to work with in the last couple of years. And collectively, we can expand our ability to pick up food. We've got a bigger refrigerator. We've got more places we can take it to. We can start writing grants together. We can tell the story, a
Mhm.
bigger story together. That to me is kind of how connective tissue needs to work. The nature of the way that a variety of social service organizations, as these groups partner with medical organizations, with mental health organizations, can start telling an even bigger story about how the connective tissue of social service functions. It's a net. There's no such thing as a billion separate nets. When the guy falls off the building, he falls into a net. And I think a lot of what matters to me about the Food Coalition is the nature of the fact it understands and believes in the building, the constructing of a net.
Yeah. Yeah, literal. I mean, not literally, but literally. I'm just gonna do a shout out how Chris Doohan's in the house and says you're doing God's work.
Chris, we went to the small town of Vulcan together. We were the only two guests, and they put us in little clown cars, and there was like a little parade through the town. Me and Chris.
You're like honorary Shriners or something.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody in the town, all six people, turned out and pelted us with. We were supposed to throw beads at them, but instead they threw beads at us. It's
You had a face built for parades.
Yeah.
Let me see. Anyway, great to see you, Chris. I miss you, man. Um, let's see. Oh,
Is-
and then he said, "Good to see you both too. Keep up the good work." And I'm way on the back scroll here. Uh, analysis. I work food industry, the butcher shop. I work to low income people during sports season for the local high school sport and junior high sports teams.
Fabulous. Great.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
We started picking up food, my wife and I, from TV shows and film sets because we saw so much waste. And we got a group of friends
Mhm.
together, maybe 50 odd. We called ourselves the Pickup Artists. That was one of the first programs we kind of asked Hollywood Food Coalition to adopt so that we could bring more
Uh-huh.
food in and start sharing it. Unfortunately, when COVID hit and the studios kind of themselves shut down, we sort of had to change our emphasis. But that's one illustration. The other thing that's interesting to me is if you're interested in food, here's something that you can specifically do in your own community. You can make a list of 10 of your close friends. You can find a local community food bank. You call your 10 friends and you say, hey, I want to come and pick up a bag of groceries on Saturday. Can we schedule the time? At the end of the day, you've made 10 stops. You've gotten the schmooze with 10 pals. You've got a car full of groceries. You drop them off at the food bank. Really easy.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you ask those same friends, hey, would you add one of your friends to the list? Now you're making 20 stops. And then you ask those people in another month, hey, would you be interested in doing this yourself? you pick 10 friends, it's metastasizing the charitable impulse
In a good way.
in a good way.
Yeah, usually metastasizing is a
Oh,
bad
the word metastasis was stolen by cancer. It actually just means, huge and rapid organic growth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we say going viral now, which
Yeah.
also has negative connotations sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thomas Mann in the Magic Mountain wrote about this. He talked about the nature of the way, which is a great book about the nature of the way illness sort of colonized our language and took a lot of the cool words and stole them.
that's interesting. Okay, now I have to. I'm going to stop right now and go. No, I can't. So my old buddy Steve here. It's good to see you, man. Aaron, a panel of writers for the autobiographical books. I know it makes no sense. Didn't they write their own books? It's fictional characters' autobiographies, guys. Oh, there's our friend Amy. Hi, Amy. A lot of folks in here. A lot of our regulars.
I can answer some of these questions as I'm seeing them. And
Okay, you're coming up from the bottom up, and I'm at the top down. So go for it.
All right. Well, there's somebody's name I'm going to botch. BLA.
Tell me what the time code says.
134232.
Okay.
I liked following John on X and or on Twitter. Let's not even call it X. I like following John. Yes, I left. I had to leave Twitter for obvious reasons because I'm sorry, but not gonna help a fascist. And I got to be candid. Although I really, really enjoyed the give and take, I just I haven't kind of got my mojo back to get back on social media, so I'm not really.
Have you? This is what I did finally. I was waiting for the herd to find a direction off of Twitter, and Blue Sky seemed to be it. So I went ahead and threw in with Blue Sky.
I haven't ruled it out. One of the things that's tricky these days is I'm really political and I read a lot and I follow a lot. But there's this trope which I think is great, which is you can either be sane or you can be informed, and I'm trying to figure out what that line is. I think for me, I want to be informed, but I don't necessarily want to get sucked into the I have done that in the past. No judgment. I totally get for a lot of people doing this means something. For me, that was a bridge too far. And so I felt like, okay, what are my boundaries? I'm going to set a line. And my line is I'm not going to do social media. That's just for now. I don't know. The world will change.
Yeah.
Donald Trump isn't going to live forever.
Here's a little Sean says, loved you an angel. Bet that doesn't come up very often.
Oh, you'd be surprised. Everybody's a partisan. Everybody likes something. Yes, I was eaten, I believe, at the end of Angel off screen. What I did like about Angel is I double dipped. I did Angel while I was still on Enterprise.
Oh, okay.
I was number 7 on the call sheet. All the pretty people that ran around in their underwear, they use those guys a lot. I was the pudgy doctor. They didn't use me that much. I
one Phlox story a year or something.
Yeah, I double dipped. So I would, look around, see if I could get other jobs. I shot Angel, which was in the studio right next door to our studio. They didn't feed us. We would, we would be given, lunch break and we'd go off on our own. If we were they would bring me a lunch because they didn't want me running around in my strange makeup. But basically, everybody was sort of cut loose. On the other hand, Angel, they ate. So while I was on Angel, I would load up with the barbecued steak, and I'll have a little bit of the shrimp scampi, please. A lobster tail, yes. And I'd take it over and eat it outside of Dominic's trailer. Like, this is the best Chateaubriand I think I've ever had.
How's that baked Alaska?
Yeah. I don't know why Dominic. There's something about Dominic that just makes me want to just tease him.
Well, he's about to get married, so.
Yeah. Well,
there you go. The jokes can accentuate.
Yeah.
I don't know where this came from, James, or maybe I missed the thing above. He says you were born to wear a straw hat, John. Do you have any idea what? I don't know what.
I think he's probably referring to the straw hat circuit. It could be one of two things. It could be like in a kind of Lothario sense. And my I should tell you that my corporation is called Stage Door Johnny Productions Inc.
Oh, okay. And your shingle. Yes.
And these days, very few people know what a Stage Door Johnny was. They were the sort of like, somewhat desperate characters who would hang out by the stage door hoping to pick up the ingenues at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. And they would wear the straw hat and they'd have a twirly cane, a little bow tie, Say, I loved the show. Might I escort you for a promenade near the? Yeah. I probably shouldn't have shared that. Let's go back and talk about child molestation some more.
Okay. Well, I don't know if that's so. Ma, who is Sherry in North Carolina, who has been volunteering to help with the North Carolina victims, going up and helping them. She's April 5th is Hands Off Day across the nation.
Yes, I knew it was something. Hands off.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens on Hands Off Day? Does that mean are you not allowed to watch things on YouTube on Hands Off Day?
No, I don't know. Okay.
This is what somebody told me this the other day, and I wasn't entirely sure what they were concerned that something was going on that was going to cut into our audience.
But. Yeah, I think you're fine. I think we're fine.
Well, we shall see. I like this one. What's it like acting against someone with a different level of attractiveness to you? I've never had that problem. Was David Boreanaz? Oh, I see. You're saying I'm the one who's attractive. Was David Boreanaz jealous? David Boreanaz is an interesting cat, I will say. He's you can either have good David Boreanaz or bad David Boreanaz. I had good David Boreanaz.
There we go. There, I found him now. Okay, Sean. Yeah. Sean, you're just full of questions today. But anyway,
I had good David Boreanaz when I was working on what was that? Bones. I kind of had bad David Boreanaz when he was working on Angel. He didn't do anything to me, but he was not the finest of moods. Yeah, I don't like to dish anything particularly. There are shows, and you just realize you are there during what, who knows why, is a bad week. Could be that somebody's ill. It could be somebody had a temper tantrum. It could be some backstage thing. And within a couple of days, you're a guest star. It's like something's going on that's not so great. I'll be in my trailer, eating the Chateaubriand, which you very provided. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm looking here. Be a builder.
Protests in cities. All right, baby. Can't happen soon enough or fast enough or hard enough. I'm going to have to announce that we're not doing Trek Talks on the 5th because I will have to be out protesting. Nah, too many people put in too much work.
Too many, but let them. Everybody do their thing. That's your thing for the day. So you did an interview with Chris on Transporter show.
I did. This is my podcast horror season when I go out and it's actually 2 months.
Thank you for that.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's actually 2 months long because I will soon pivot to doing podcasts for Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, which is the other charitable effort that I'm engaged in. My mother passed away from pancreatic cancer, and there are a number of other people at Star Trek whose lives were affected by pancreatic cancer. And we help raise money and awareness for this wonderful organization that has been on the forefront of helping to improve survivor rates for people who have pancreatic cancer, up from 5% to 15%, in large part because of the efforts they've put in over the last umpteen years.
Yeah, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. We do something called Trek Against Pancreatic Cancer as part of Purple Stride March.
When is that?
April 26th, Saturday, April 26th.
Okay.
In LA, 8:00 in the morning, I think people gather at the Santa Monica Pier for a walk that takes place around 9ish. And I like to tell everybody, if you get there early enough and you're prepared to, donate some money to Trek Against Pancreatic Cancer, our team, I will do whatever I can to ensure you that Jonathan Frakes gives you a piggyback ride.
There you go. Well, better him than Armin.
Yeah.
Here's Aaron or Geek Filter. Hands Off Day is a national day of action, a coordinated series of protests opposing the policies and action of the Trump administration.
Fabulous.
There you go.
Fabulous.
Here's James again asking an actual question. Is there a rivalry between the Trek casts?
Yeah, well, there's how come they never did that? Like remember those days, the network stars.
Oh, the Battle of the
Network stars.
Yeah.
If they had the Battle of the Superannuated Track Show stars, it would have to be it would have to be like some very light lifting. It'd be like, hey, who can lift the potato to their mouth the fastest? We would beat the previous iterations of Star Trek, but of course we would be fucking creamed by
all the new ones,
these toothsome youngsters.
Yeah.
Their underpants, except Anthony Montgomery. Anthony Montgomery could beat fucking anyone at anything at any time. He is still built like a brick shithouse at the age of 50 some, it's really quite revolting.
Dave says, appreciate John uplifting Hofo Co. The past few times in visiting LA after STLV, I put time in at the meal prep and exchange.
Yes, you have. I've heard about that. Thank you so much. Yes, and if you're ever in LA and you want to volunteer, you can go to hofoco.org. You could sign up and you could come and either help us make the meal, serve the meal, or be at the what we used to call the exchange, what we will now call the community food hub. You can help as the food comes in. We sort it and we cull it and we get rid of the crap, and then we help put essentially what we call tickets together for groups who are coming to pick up, who are getting that day's or that week's food. We kind of are their shoppers in essence. It's great fun. Any of those things are fun. And thank you so much, Dave.
And that's a place where you're networking. So you're not having to collect it, sort it, and then get it out to people. You are partnering with groups.
Yeah, we have trucks that go around and pick food up. So as it comes in, we have to weigh it. And, produce, for instance. A lot of what we did this, I'll backtrack. We did what we did in response to one of the things that we perceived as a problem. Feeding America, which is a wonderful organization and the biggest of the food rescuers in the country. But the contracts they have are with larger not-for-profits because they deal in such volume. They want to drop off, pallets of produce. Small to medium-sized not-for-profits can't take a pallet of jicama or a pallet of lettuce. They want a carton, or maybe even just a shopping bag, or maybe even just, can you give me like 10 tomatoes? When we pick up food, we do the culling and the sorting so that they don't get stuck with a shitload of food that they can't possibly use that they would have to throw out.
Right. And propagating the waste you're trying to.
Exactly. And one of the other things that I'm also interested in as a food rescuer is that a lot of the climate change issue, obviously a lot of it is, coal plants and et cetera, et cetera. Well, Trump wants to open more coal plants. But some of it is methane that is released from food that goes to landfills. So we waste in America 40% of the food that's created, which is a staggering statistic. Now, a lot of that is what, goes into our refrigerators. Like, oh, I forgot about those grapes. Oh, well, chuck them. Restaurant waste, grocery store waste, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To save that food, one of the things that has to happen is we have to find ways to collect it in different volume points, so that organizations like ours can collect smaller, more manageable amounts of food so that we can cull and sort in a human way. There aren't enough culling and sorting places to allow culling and sorting of huge volumes of food to take place.
It's like the forgotten step in the whole refeeding of America.
Yeah, refrigeration. There simply isn't enough place. There isn't enough refrigeration capacity to pick up all of the various amounts of food that you could rescue from grocery stores and farm-to-table programs and et cetera, and you can't get it immediately to the people who need it. You usually have to refrigerate or store it first for a little bit of time. In an ideal world, which is something that I would love to see happen eventually, there would be in communities, there would be a form of a hotline. And that hotline would be the food providers. Hey, I've got such and such and such and such at such and such a location. Who can pick it up? And that hotline would reach out to the various participants, be it not-for-profits or individuals or volunteers, to say, hey, I got a pickup for you at such and such and such and such a location, and it needs to go to this refrigeration source, this warehouse source, or directly to yada, 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 this end user. That would be a logistical nightmare, but it's ultimately what you need.
Yeah. Well, just get that grid going. Get that grid
and that's coalition building to me. That is sort of where I'd like to see this coalition eventually, paying off with improved systems.
Yeah. Well, we've been at this almost an hour, so I didn't want to take too much of your time, but here's a couple so Ballas says, I really like Phlox Enterprise. So there, take that, Bob Picardo. Made himself my top favorite doctor. But he liked you in a movie, The Man from Earth, a really interesting drama.
Yes, about the difference between spirituality and religiosity.
Oh, there's a topical. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Some of you guys. Sherry says she can hear the passion in your voice. That is wonderful. There you go. And Cairo, who's coming to us from Vienna, Robert. It's not that there's too little food around. It's just that it's not distributed well enough. But
Correct.
I think it helps to fix some of that.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the issue is that particularly in a capitalist society, overproduction is baked into the pie of how things function. So there will always be. Now, one of the things that's weird, that has come up in our industry is that to a certain extent, the nature, and this is an AI thing that I don't fully understand. People who are smarter than me have tried to explain it to me. They are getting better at figuring out how to actually make less. So there is a concern that if there is less in the system, that less will go to people in need. I have had that explained to me by people who know shit I do not know, and I couldn't accurately pass it on as a concern. But to a certain extent, we kind of go, "Oh my God, there's so much waste." But the reality is, if there wasn't,
then the proportions would be,
yeah,
the scale would be scaled down. And
yeah,
all that.
somewhere there's a middle ground, where
Yeah.
you're finding a way to rescue that waste. You don't want to get rid of surplus production, but you do want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, yeah. Just more. Here, you guys that are so helpful here. Restaurant Toronto, 3-day set menu per week. The other 3 are cheaper leftover days.
I love it.
There we go.
Yeah.
So James just threw this in, and but I was going to say this: have any of the modern current shows, the Toronto shows, said anything about having a hologram or a history lesson or anything about Phlox or
cricket?
Cricket.
Cricket.
Bob really sent that email out on a wide.
Yeah. I've told people for years about my idea, which is old fat Phlox, and that's a show where every episode begins with old fat Phlox is sitting on a box. Back in the day when I was an intergalactic space doctor, I had all sorts of exciting things happen to me. For instance, there was one day on Alpha, I don't remember, and flashback music, and then you have young hirsute Dr. Phlox running around in his underwear saving the day, along with various other sultry space alien babes. And then at the end of the episode, it kind of flashback music. And anyway, stay tuned next week for another episode of Old Fat Phlox.
What is the denobulan equivalent of a corncob pipe?
I don't know. Edgar Buchanan is my hero. I think of Uncle Joe sitting on the porch with his galluses, and that's even as a child, it's like I want to play him.
There's Uncle Joe. He's moving kind of slow
at the junction. That's right. There's Uncle Phlox. He's sitting on a box at the junction. Denobula Junction. Now I've lost 25 pounds, so I'm going to have to, if I get that job, I'm going to have to start eating dessert again.
Just get a denobulan pillow or whatever.
I wish Dr. Phlox could have shown up on lower decks too. I don't know.
Do we know how long denobulans live?
Yes, they live very, 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 very long time. And even if they didn't, it's quite possible that Dr. Phlox's son, Fred Phlox, who looks just like Phil, could have stepped in.
That's right. With all those 3 wives, he could have come from anyway. Here's Derek's, who works in visual effects inside the Young Indiana Phlox Chronicles.
I know. There's so many possibilities.
There you go.
Yeah.
Phlox, MD, procedural.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So James says, aren't you in the Origins movie, which is supposed to be? I don't think so. That's probably too early.
I don't believe I am.
There you go. No one knows anything about this movie. It's the one that's supposed to be happening first, but no one knows.
No, I think I'd remember that.
It's supposed to be between First Contact time and Archer's time. It's supposed to be when the Vulcans it's supposed to be set on Earth but that's I know it's
there's so many loops I'm not in, it's staggering.
Well, that's a loop that no one's in apparently.
Okay,
so
all right.
Aaron says, wasn't some of the waste in the system used? Did USAID pick up some of that?
The late and lamented USAID. I don't know, but
it would have to get overseas. So unless it was,
don't get me started. I mean, the idea that was one of the first things they do is like, let's cut to people who are on the medical front lines in third world countries and say, screw it. Doesn't matter if we stop Ebola at the source. I mean, what's at risk there?
What was at risk? The way that just happened, but it was so competently handled.
Oh, God
Middle of
almighty.
Obama's time that no one.
God almighty.
Um,
Um,
I think uh,
I've got a lot of the people who are talking now about cooking. I like that.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the shocking idea of teaching kids to eat healthy in schools. That's such an original new idea.
Yes, there's a politician here in America who basically said, these kids getting fed in schools, why don't they work the way I did when I was a young man? Put him on a box.
Oh, you mean and raise healthy kids and raise healthy food?
Yeah,
You mean like Michelle Obama's pet project? Oh, no.
Are there no workhouses? How do those people watch like A Christmas Carol at the end of the year? They identify with Scrooge. It's like, I don't understand what the problem was. He was a wealthy man.
Why did he waste his money on that turkey at the
understand.
end?
Yes.
Yeah. What was okay. Oh, Derek, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm glad she's back, but that's insane. Welcome to the insanity of 2025. Yeah.
And I mean, believe me, as an American, I'm worse than mortified. It's always been a strain in America. I mean, we've always had
I thought
healthy minority of dumbass.
I thought the W years couldn't be more embarrassing to go to Europe, but boy, I know now.
No, I just yeah. So anybody from Europe who's on here, I apologize for the idiocy of my fellow countrymen. We're not all dumbasses.
No,
only half of us.
A
50-50 shot. Anybody who shows up in your neighborhood, it's like a coin toss. Most of the dumbasses are not traveling over there. Generally speaking, the dumbasses are not. Interested in travel.
The first weekly food box I got was based on that. $20 a week for fresh local produce, and introduced a lot of new products. Oh, okay. Hi, Bob.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a Tuesday liver, new to the audience at all, but that's great. And thanks for bopping in. Okay, here's one, and we're like into overtime. Sean says, can you ask I guess he means your nationality's background.
He sounds English. I'm sure it was all English. Billingsley and Goodbar. My mother's maiden name was Goodbar. I'm not somebody who has.
She didn't have to go looking for it.
I'm not somebody who's done a deep dive into his ancestry, so I'm afraid I'm sure there must be some. I'd like to think that there is. I do know that there was a gentleman on my father's side of the family who was hung as a horse thief. So I'd like to think that a certain amount of criminality kind of has come down to me as part of my genetic load.
That adds to the actor's ability.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something that can be communicated, through the genes or not. But I'd like to think there's at least a little touch of the illicit.
Scott totally agrees. This is my assistant, Scott. Christmas Carol is one of my favorite things, and wonder all the time, what are these people saying?
I know, or anything, you just kind of think it's like,
or Star Trek. I wonder, like,
they can't participate in culture because pretty much anything is an attempt to find a way to relate to actually, human emotion and human suffering. It just they can't read, they can't watch TV, they can't go to movies, they can't enjoy music. It's like all antithetical to their apparently twisted belief that the only thing worth having is other people's misery and money.
Mm-hmm. That's bent, as they would say politely. What is John Billingsley's opinion of Enterprise doing space 9/11 over 20 years later? Sorry.
What was John Billingsley's opinion of Enterprise? Do a space 9/11. Yes, I think I understand what that means. You're wondering about whether or not the third season, which was definitely kind of 9/11 centric, what I thought of it. I wasn't crazy about it. I thought it was jingoistic. And I thought so at the time. I thought, for me, the idea that, horrible creatures from out of nowhere came and, blew us up and, God damn it, we'll track them down. Nothing's going to stop us. It was just too coincidental that coincided with the war on Iraq. I love Manny Cotto, who wrote some of the very, very best episodes. He also was a guy who wrote for 24. And I had a number of conversations with Manny. Manny was more towards the right. His geopolitics tended to be a little bit more, dukes up. I'm not as at the time I felt like it is absolutely true that Islamic fundamentalism is a fundamentalism, and fundamentalism is, authoritarian fundamentalism is something we have to be concerned about.
From whatever the root is, and
But yeah,
fundamentals of all the big guys in the world.
yeah,
Theologies have
but 9/11, those of us who were paying a lot of attention were like, I hope to fuck we don't do, and then we did, and then we did,
the overreact, yeah,
and then we did, and I would have wished, to a certain extent, that our show could have been prescient enough to say, don't
overreact. That was also the response to, you guys are canceled unless you do something to gin up your ratings, action packed or whatever, and that was the response.
Yeah, the good aspect of it, I will say, is it created a certain amount of narrative drive, which had been missing from the show. I mean, I thought our show, in all candor, which I felt at the time, was a little meandery. I mean, for the first show, for the first ship out in space, it kind of felt like fairly soon after the first few episodes, we began to kind of get and I think that was one of the things that kind of did us in. Our ratings really kind of dipped badly, almost out of the gate, and then they really plummeted about midway through season 2. Season 3 didn't necessarily rescue our ratings, but I do think the show became more propulsive.
Well, the worst thing was you were also hitched up to UPN, which was going nowhere fast.
Yes, absolutely. And any number of shitty things associated with UPN, including it was frequently canceled in different cities where it was supposed to air. We went to a convention in San Antonio and nobody showed up. It turned out, well, it wasn't actually airing in San Antonio. They were canceling it to show the high school Friday night football games. I was like, oh, I think somebody might have figured that out before
told us that.
On the plane.
That was on the con as well as it was other thing. Let's see. John sounds a little bit like someone who has sat and enjoyed some Terry Pratchett, the Discworld characters.
I have read a smidge of Terry Pratchett, yes, but just a smidge, not out of any dislike of Terry Pratchett. I remember liking what I read, but there's so much to read.
Yeah. Weren't the first thespians thieves who got caught? They got away with it, so they went on to. I don't know.
Back in the day, it was like, no actors, no Irish. And no signs would be on, because frankly, a lot of touring companies traveling around the US, they would abandon the actors in the middle of bumfuck. So a lot of boarding house owners were afraid that the actors would be, suddenly the paycheck would be gone, skedaddling out of town with the producers, and the actor would be like, I'm sorry, Charlie, I didn't get paid. And so the producers finally had to prepay just to make sure when they got into town and were putting people up, to make the boarding house owners feel comfortable that they wouldn't get bilked.
Oh. Okay.
That's why our union founded, actually, in part, Actors Equity, to kind of protect the actors from getting abandoned in the middle of their tours.
Okay. Equity. John, I think we're going all over the place here now, but I don't want to take away from your time. But thanks much for doing this. Oh, let me throw these up once more. So everybody, it's April 5th. You can come celebrate First Contact Day and First Contact, all the panels all day long. I say all day long. It's, how many hours is it? 8 hours?
8 hours. An 8-hour cruise from 10 in the morning Pacific time here in America to 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific time here in America. I'll let everybody else do the math on what that might mean for them locally.
It's an evening for the Europeans. That'll be and by that time we'll be on summertime together, daylight and summer together. So it'll be like 6 p.m. I guess in the UK and 7 in Central Europe. And here's all the socials where you can catch what's going on. As we speak, they're working on a lot of the if you get on the socials, they've been announcing a lot of the guests and the panels and the topics and everything. And as we speak, they're working on the one for the Bell Riots and Future Tense with myself and Ira and Robert Wolf and Terry Farrell and Blair, our friend from, is she on the board from Hollywood Food Coalition?
She is.
She's a board member from Hofolk. Yeah, some on the ground, gritty trench wisdom from Blair about this intersection of fiction and reality, sadly still with us. when it comes to that issue. John, listen, I will let you go. I am so thrilled that you could do this today, and we could have some fun, and as the Trek Talks is all about, mixing the fun of Trek with its Trektivism and doing some good for folks.
Absolutely. I hope I wasn't excessively spittle-flecked in my rage today, but it's hard these days.
It is. If there was any year to have all that happening. I'm just looking here if somebody, thank you, Cairo, for pitching in your $47 again. Or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Everybody, listen, thanks so much. I'm going to let John go. And John, do you want to hang on for my little closing, or do you want me to say sayonara now here?
I'll hang on for your little closing.
Okay.
Just to make sure you don't say anything about me while my back's turned.
I don't. I'm trying.
I know.
There we go. I'm trying. Listen, everybody. Thanks, John, for doing this. And just so everybody else, I have an apology to make, though, for the folks on the Roddenberry Patreon and the Discord for Trek Files. We had things happen yesterday. I could not make our 4:00 Trekophiles tonight live over on Discord, which we just launched. So we've just reset it back a week. So next Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern, I will be there for Trekophiles tonight. Trekophiles spelled with an F. So all you supporters of the Trek Files, we do have a community there now at the Mission Log Discord, and you get there with the Roddenberry Patreon as little as $1 a month. Come on over, and I will be there. And my apologies to everybody without warning that I didn't get to meet you yesterday. We'll be there, and I'll be in the Patreon boards to talk about that. Otherwise, I'm excited, as I said at the top of the show, because I had our first Trekland Treks tour of the year just Sunday, and I had a couple work. They both work in the industry. She's an associate producer, he's an editor, and they got engaged at Bronson Canyon, which was amazing because his favorite show was Inner Light and her favorite show was Darmok, and they, without warning, sat down and started to, I knew they were going to get married, but I didn't know they were going to do it there on site, which is hysterical. So that was awesome. But if you don't have to get engaged, but if you want to do a tour of,
why did I stick around for this? I don't know. I could have left. But I stayed.
It's the wonderful world of Disney. It's the broad swath. Everybody, the Trek Files is up once again too. The show. The TrekFiles.com. It's on Memory Alpha now. A new episode this week. Please go see it.
Go Dodgers! Go Dodgers!
There you go. I gave you the ability, John. Thanks to all of our Patreon folks. If you want to join on our Patreon, I don't have the name list handy, but here we go. $5, $10, Patreon.com, LarryNemecek.live. This is the closing, John. It's the commercials. Who is that?
Phil Silvers.
Oh, I was going to say that's not Ambrose Bierce.
Phil Silvers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
the great Phil Silvers.
Yes.
Sergeant Bilko.
Yes. You'll never get rich. Well, there's Will Rogers. So
there you go. Okay.
Oh,
it's on. Oh,
you're doing show and tell now.
It's on. It's on.
Oh my God. What do you have?
That's Wizard
of Oz. It's Wizard of Oz. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's
all right. I quit.
Here's my woodcut of DeForest Kelly.
No, I give up.
Oh, you're going to do an Ira exit. Okay, everybody. Listen, everyone. Join me next week. Next Tuesday, we'll be back with fun and frivolity. Don't forget the Trek Talks 4 is Saturday, April 5th. Let's go away with that one. And otherwise, everybody, listen. Stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay awoke. Check the sources on all this craziness going by these days. And listen, everybody. Trek well.
Mad world. Yes.
And thank you, John. No one has ever gone off with me before, so you're a historic first.
Woohoo!